Hey, what's up? John Sonmez from simpleprogrammer.com. So I have a book review for you today again. I will tell you real quick that if you're interested in my book reviews, I've been doing a lot of them because I read a lot of books, because I run a long distance and I listen to audio versions of the book. You can check out my playlist here with all my book reviews so far. Today I'm going to be talking about a book called Extreme Ownership, and this is a book that was written by two Navy SEALs, two ex-Navy SEAls who fought in Iraq, and they learned about ownership, about extreme ownership, and now they do some business consulting, and they tell some stories about essentially leadership. It's really a book on leadership and how to be a good leader. That's really what this book is about. And they relate this to some war stories and then to the corporate world. So overall, I had some mixed thoughts on this book. You know, it's the author of the book. I had heard him on Tim Ferriss's podcast. Let me look this up just so I get his name right. Actually, it's co-authored, right? There's two authors here. So you have Jocko, Willink, and Leif Babin, excuse me on the pronunciation, but I believe I heard Jocko on Tim Ferriss's podcast, and I really liked what he had to say. There was a thing he said about how freedom through discipline. I totally relate to that. Totally agree with that. He was answering a lot of people's questions, and it clicked with me what he was saying. We have very similar viewpoints on work ethic and busting your butt, and so I really appreciated that. So I decided to check out the book, and I'd heard of this book before. So I think it's a really good book. Definitely, it's. There's not a lot that's like super new in it, but what I really like about the book, and I think it's worth reading. I'm sort of on the fence between like giving it my 100% recommendation and saying that it's pretty good up there, but it depends on the person. I think on who you are, on what kind of value that you'll get out of it. What I really like is that they do go through like stories, actual examples in combat where that demonstrate these principles, and I totally agree with everything in the book as far as leadership goes. This idea, I think it's really important, this idea of taking extreme ownership, of owning the entire thing, of when something goes wrong and you are the leader, it is your fault. It doesn't matter. You can't make excuses. You can't pass blame. You have to take ownership, and just taking ownership for everything in your life. I think that's a really good way to approach life. I think that there is a huge benefit in doing that. I'm going to go through some of the chapters here as I'm trying to make better book reviews, because sometimes I just talk about whatever. So let me pull up. You know what? It doesn't have a table of contents in here. Oh, see how unprepared I am? Look at that. And I think that's probably one of the things in the book about being prepared. Yet I was not prepared to do this book review, and so I'm just like fumbling through here. So anyway, I can't find the table of contents. That's kind of weird. Normally you have the table of contents. Let me just. How about extreme ownership? Table of contents. It's funny when autocomplete comes up in his PDF, and I'm like, gosh, everyone pirates books, really? Come on, let's not do that. It's so silly. It's so cheap to buy a book, right? Okay, so I actually do have. So he's got, starting off with extreme ownership. A real good concept here. No bad teams, only bad leaders. I think this is interesting. There's some real interesting stories here that he tells about the boat team in the Navy SEALs, where they switch the leaders, and it's interesting. I won't ruin it for you, but I totally agree on that. Believe, check the ego. Checking the ego, really important. Laws of combat, cover and move. This is a really interesting concept of like using teamwork to be able to, in all of these like combat scenarios, he has a really good way of applying it to real life and to corporate type of environment. Simple, keep things simple. I like that chapter, right? About keeping things simple. I thought he powerfully presented that as like when you have this big chain of command, when you have a lot of people that are working under you or you're trying to coordinate things, you got to keep it simple. You can't have these complicated processes and things like that. So simple makes sense. Prioritize and execute. Decentralized command. This was a core concept from this book, which is basically that you can only really manage 4 or 5 people that are under you. So you got to figure out how to decentralize command and distribute. This is sort of like delegation, like delegate to other people, other leaders that can then have their teams, and you got to trust them. This is a really important concept. I think sustaining victory is the next part here. So he's got a plan, leading up and down the chain of command. This is interesting too. Another concept is that he talks about this idea of you have to tell your inferiors, the people that are below you, not inferior, I don't know what your reports, why you're doing what you're doing, like what the mission is, like the purpose of it, so they buy into it. And at the same time, you have to up report, you have to lead up. And what he's saying there is like, you got to like give information. I talk about this all the time as a software developer, like managing your career. You need to give your boss weekly reports, right? I did this video actually on creating weekly reports. You can check that out. But that is really, really important, is to push the information up, to be like, give information before it's needed. If your boss is asking you for stuff and on your case, it's because you're not volunteering it. You need to be anticipating the needs and leading up, which is really, really, I haven't heard this before, but I thought that was really good. And then the whole concept of discipline equals freedom. Very, very powerful concept. It's amazing how discipline actually equates into freedom. The more disciplined you are, the more time you have actually, and then the more that you actually have freedom to be able to accomplish and do what you want. And it starts with discipline. So, you know, it's not the best book I've ever read, but it's a really, really good book on leadership. I think you should read it. It's I definitely would give it I would give it 5 stars out of 4 stars. I think I would maybe 4.8 or 4.7 because but I think the concepts are so important. Again, probably one of the reasons why I wouldn't give it as high rating is because I'm familiar with a lot of these things already, but I think I agree with it 100%. I'll tell you that at least. So anyway, check it out. It's called Extreme Ownership, and I got the Audible version, which was pretty good. But yeah, definitely check it out. And if you like this video, if you want to get more book reviews, you want to get more videos, I do like 2 to 3 videos a day. Yes, that's right. You can click the subscribe button below, and I will talk to you next time. Take care.